Доброго ранку, шановні колеги. Ми продовжуємо.
Hello, dear colleagues. We continue our working day, and we will talk to a people's deputy from VOLIA party on the topic the crimes of Kivalov yesterday and today. Thank you. I'm Iryna Suslova, the political party VOLIA. The illustration process in Ukraine goes on very slowly, and those people who were involved in crimes on Maidan have not only been punished but are still trying to come back to politics. And an example in this are some rectors and former rectors who are heading universities, people like Kivalov, Melnik, and Letnik. Everyone heard of the loud case of Petro Melnik. He's not only been punished for the crimes that he perpetrated while in power, but he also tries to come back through court to the office of director. But also very odious is a figure of Sergei Kivalov, who is a rector of the National Academy of Law Institute, a person who is well known with common folk as Mr. Count this as 10 years in criminal schemes are still working. The party VOLIA, Freedom, Liberty, that was created on the Maidan and created by the Maidan people, have declared that we will not allow those people to live calmly, and we are responsible for bringing them for laws of 16th of January that try to curtail people's freedoms, and these are people like Kivalov, Koletnik, and the rest of them. As an MP, I sent a request to the Minister of Internal Shokin and resources and architecture and construction. I am requesting information on the affairs that the Odessa Law Academy is involved, and in fact this is Kivalov. You have a sheet which shows how the Odessa Law Academy acquired from the state property different buildings and premises, and how they later became in fact privately owned by Kivalov, and how corruption was going on, and how he used these premises to his own aims. In 1999, the Ministry for Education gave to the Odessa Law Academy the peers of the Odessa seagoing college, which is situated in the golden part of Odessa Beach. And they also in fact gave to Kivalov for the use almost a hectare of land in order to service the pristine piers. Also, the Odessa Sea Naval's seagoing college's property was handed over to the Law Academy a couple of years later, almost 5 hectares of land. And when the Orange Revolution started in Ukraine, the lands of this college were transformed into, in fact, private ownership. It was acquired by the so-called International University, who is headed by Sergei Kivalov. In a couple of years, the private University of Kivalov started construction, and in place of the prison station, which was promised to be used for the practice of students, in fact, they planned to erect a house to host international guests and honorable guests of the academy, but in fact this this is a five-story building, a five-story palace, which is a dacha of Mr. Kivalov, and people cannot go through this territory because it is guarded by Kivalov's security. And the Odessa City Council also exempted the builder from paying 3.5 million contribution for the use of land, and taking into account the fact that it was meant to be used for educational purposes, what's been done is a brutal violation of law. Also, in fact, they ruined the building of the CEO in the college. They started to build another building there. You've seen this on the fact sheet. After 2012, when Mr. Yanukovych came to power, they did the same with the state enterprise of the seamen, of the sailors' house. Almost 20,000 square meters of dwelling space and 1.4 or 14 hectares of land were acquired by Mr. Kivalov, and last year they started to ruin all the buildings, and the attempt of the Black Sea Transportation Prosecutor's Office to get compensation for the damage did not lead to anything, and meanwhile they started to build the so-called church school there, commissioned by the charity foundation Students' Church, and one of the founders of this charity foundation is Mr. Kivalov. You can see this on the fact sheet. Besides, by chicanery methods, they also adopted the building of the cottage town on these 14 hectares of land, and as a result of criminal actions of the officials from the Law Academy, including Mr. Kivalov, they in fact acquired and embezzled the property of the sea-going college, and dozens of people were left jobless. The VOLIA party demands to restore justice, to investigate the conditions how all this became private property, and why and how they built all those buildings on the state-owned land, and we demand to lodge a criminal case according to all the facts that you've just heard, pre-court investigation, and bring into responsibility those people who are involved in this. And this is not only Sergei Kivalov, but also his closest surrounding, who are involved in these corruption schemes that inflicted a huge damage on our state. And we also understand that it is necessary today to fight these so-called gentlemen with other methods, and we are drafting these people in their offices, I mean in the offices of managers of educational establishments, people like Kivalov, Khomuntinnik, and Melnik. We understand that they are heading those establishments were people who should be a foundation for our reforms very soon. And I'm sure that rectors have to go even more diligent lustration than usual officials, because they are responsible for people who will be influencing the state of our state very soon. New region, Andrei Kolesnichenko. Maybe I have missed something, but about the crimes, the sailors' base, those were just crimes of the past. You know, because the request is based on specific testimony and proofs that I have. We have pointed this all out in the request, and we did send the information that is confirmed and corroborated. For all the things that I've mentioned, we have documents that corroborate the fact of the crime about what's going on now and the possibility of support of separatist movements. This is just an assumption, but Mr. Kivalov was an author of publications about the creation of the Odessa People's Republic. We have sent requests as well, but this is just an assumption because I don't have proof. In case we get other information, we will file an additional request to the Ministry of Interior and to General Prosecutor's Office with a request to launch criminal case to bring to responsibility people involved in the different chicanery. Within 10 days, the prosecutor's office and Avakov, who is the Minister for Internal Affairs, has to give us an answer, and I'm sure they will do this. Today we have a meeting with different officials about Mr. Melnik and his possible coming back to his position of a director, and I'm sure that if we do not get the answer within 10 days, we will try to arrange an open meeting with the Minister of Interior and the Prosecutor General in order to make this very public. Are you going to ask Prosecutor General today about the activities of Mr. Kivalov? We have sent an official request, so the General Prosecutor's Office have 10 days in order to peruse the facts that we have explained, and after this they will have to answer us. Everything has to run according to the law. If we insist on fulfilling the law, then we have to adhere to the law. And my question is from the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. This is not the first time that you came to us with investigation results about land, about stealing of land. Are you going to do this in the future, and what's your next target? At the moment, we, in fact, are conducting an MP investigation on Melnik, Kivalov, Koletnik, also the Ingul refinery, and some other enterprises that have contracts with the National Academy of Sciences, and it concerns 500,000 hectares, and in parallel we get information about woods and the cutting and felling of woods. We have stopped this in Stary Sambir district in Lviv region. We are also doing the same in Chernivtsi region, where we see in fact the abuse of power by the director of a state enterprise. So if our audience has such information, please send us information on embezzlement and abuse of power by state officials. And there's a normal, a healthy, a live group of parliamentarians in Verkhovna Rada who are prepared to fight from the very start to the very logical end of the case. Another question, please raise your hand, I'll give you a mic. Maybe there are some calculations how much the land that Kivalov has stolen cost. I don't have such things, such figures, but he didn't pay 3.5 million contribution for the land, according to the decision of Odessa City Council, but of course this is dozens of millions of damage inflicted upon the state. No other questions. Thank you very much. Do come back and inform us. And